Hello and welcome back. Today I am going to be talking about self-help compulsion and how NoFap in particular, and when you're trying to overcome a porn addiction, it can lead to people developing a gym compulsion, meditation compulsion, journaling compulsion, and really just getting into that rabbit hole of self-improvement, that whole world. Now, I received this comment on YouTube, and that's why I decided to create this video. So this comment said, I would love if you went into more depth into the self-help compulsion. I got tricked by that stuff, and it drove me manic when trying to get this corn compulsion under control. So this guy clearly trying to overcome his porn addiction, and he went into the whole self-improvement stuff. Sounds like he developed some kind of compulsion to the sort of self-improvement stuff, a bit like myself, and that's drove him manic, and he feels like he's been sort of tricked by it. Now, totally relate with that comment. It's definitely a very, very familiar path to me, because that's exactly what I did. Is I went online after trying to overcome my porn addiction, and I was fed a load of shit, really, with loads of sort of information on self-improvement, and none of it really got me anywhere. So what I'll do is I'll start off by just sharing like my personal story with this stuff. So what happened is, it was 2019, it was quite late into the year in 2019, and I had a girlfriend at the time, but I was really deep in a porn addiction. And I remember I had like this online business, so I was up in the attic of my mum and dad's house, and I was coding. I'm not like a software developer or anything, but I was just learning code online, and I'd like solve a little bit of a problem with this code, be going on YouTube and figuring things out and kind of teaching myself. And then afterwards I'd be like, oh, I need to rest, like I need to relax, like that was so stressful. And I'd go and masturbate and watch porn, and then I'd do a bit of code again on this business, and then go watch porn again and relapse. And I was in this cycle, and I remember she was away at the time, and I honestly was doing that like every day for like 3 or 4 times a day. And I ended up looking at more and more crazy shit online, getting into like sissy content, femdom stuff, all sorts. And then she came back from this holiday, and I just was not interested in seeing her. I was so disinterested. I honestly just wanted to stay in my room, working on the business and trying to build this stuff online, doing the coding, and then also, of course, engaging in compulsivity, watching porn. Now, a few weeks later, she decides to break up with me. It was probably one of the best things that happened in my life, because it helped me go, shit, I need to sort my life out. Because at that point in time, I was just a guy living in his mum and dad's attic, trying to start something online, failing to be straight, and watching a lot of porn. I had really, really bad habits. I'd play video games for hours, I'd eat shit food. I didn't really have any goals or ambitions, and I was just a bit lost basically in life, and had all these terrible compulsions that were really the main problem in my life in hindsight. So they were the main problems, and I decided, okay, I need to like sort my life out. I need to like get myself together, because I don't want to go through this pain of a breakup ever again. I'd been with that girl for like 5 years on and off. I'd met her when I was only like 16, and she was kind of like the love of my life back then. And I was like, what the hell? Like, and the crazy thing about it is I was so detached from reality and like desensitized to things, because I was so deep in the porn addiction, that I remember very specifically when she broke up with me, I was kind of just like laughing about it with friends, and like just playing FIFA at my mate's house called Max. We just like went and played FIFA for like the whole afternoon, and I was like, oh, it doesn't really matter, oh yeah, I'm single now, I can go have sex with all these girls, blah blah blah. And it was all just bullshit, and I cheated on that girl anyway as well, and yeah, it was all just a mess basically. I feel like I'm a completely different person now, many years later. So I remember a few months went by, I stayed living at my parents, and I just got really sick of it. I was like, I need to make quite a big change in my life. And in January 2020, I went and moved to Portugal. So I actually decided to just go on holiday at first, because I was running this online business. I was like, okay, 6 weeks in Portugal, let's just like kind of lock in, do some work. So I go out there, and then I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was like going to the beach, and I got really into self-improvement. I was reading loads, and it was kind of like the kind of beginning of my whole self-improvement journey as such. And I read like David Goggins, I read like James Clear, and I just really got into it all. And I'd be on Instagram and like learning self-improvement on there as well at the time. I decided to stay in Portugal, and I ended up living there for 9 months. That was during the pandemic as well. it was quite a crazy time, but I did actually make some really good friends out in the mountains, and I actually got into fitness as well. Before 2020, I wasn't really into working out at all. I'd put on a bit of weight. I was in pretty bad shape in hindsight, but I started to do like plank every morning and going on a run and doing push-ups. I didn't have like a gym membership, but I was just trying to work out as best I could. So I really got into self-improvement. And then I returned home to England at the end of 2020. And to be honest with you, one of the reasons I think one of the reasons I actually did come home was because I'd relapsed in August 2020. I remember it very specifically because what had happened is there was this girl I was really into called Danny, and I'd sent her a message about like going out for a date or something, and she hadn't replied to me for a number of days, and I felt very rejected, and I had all these compulsive desires. I was on this really long NoFap streak. I was actually on 82 days of NoFap. It was my longest NoFap streak at the time. And I went on Instagram and started scrolling and looking at sexual content, and then eventually I went and masturbated and looked at some really sexual content, and I felt absolutely terrible afterwards. And I was like, oh God, you know, this is awful. I'd kind of lost that drive and desire to connect with people so much. And the worst thing about that in a way was that a few days later, she actually did reply to me as well. And I was like, what the hell have I done? Like that was so stupid. So I was right back in the addiction, you know, more desires. Returned to England in September 2020, a few weeks later, for my birthday. And then kind of the next like few years between 2020 and 2023, it was just more NoFap streaks, more of these cycles of ups and downs and relapsing and then doing another streak, trying really hard to solve this problem, reading more, you know, reading David Goggins' second book, going to the gym, just trying to sort my life out with all this random self-improvement shit. I probably read over 100 self-improvement books, got into some different kind of routes in terms of therapy as well, a bit of like CBT stuff, a bit of IFS, so like cognitive behavioural therapy and internal family systems, did a life coaching course, just trying everything. And then in 2023, I finally started to actually invest in my self-improvement as well. Spent over £2,000 on a 6-week fitness body transformation after a really bad relapse. When I really felt like I needed some dramatic change in my life now. I was so sick of the way I was, so I spend a lot of money, get into a little bit better physical shape, I suppose. And during that time, I just had all these crazy habits. Like I'd have a cold shower every single day. And I remember one time during that 6-week fitness transformation in particular, probably when I was at like the peak of my self-improvement journey as such, I remember going on a little holiday to stay in Northumberland in a grandma of mine's timeshare. She has like an apartment there that I could stay in with family, which I'm very lucky I had access to. So I stayed there with my mum, my dad and my grandma, and they didn't have any cold water. So they only had like lukewarm water. It was like the coldest water they had. So I'm having these showers and I'm pissed off. I'm like, I need like cold water. Like if I don't have cold water, I'm going to relapse. And had all these like bullshit, like junky thoughts that were completely created by being in the addiction and then going online and seeking out, you know, like NoFap information and self-improvement advice. So I'm like, I need cold water. And I remember very specifically like filling up a 2-litre bottle of water with just normal water from the sink, putting that in the freezer, letting it like freeze or like go really cold, taking it back out again, and then like literally just pouring it on my head instead of having a shower. And I'd like do that and be like, oh yay, finally I've had my cold shower for today. Like it's just insane. Like that is not a normal healthy way to live in modern society. Like there's just no need to do weird shit like that. But I used to have all these different restrictions and conditions in my life. I'd like have to say to people like, oh, I need 1 hour's meditation. Like I remember dating a girl and she'd like stay over and I was like, right, you need to leave now because I'd need to do my hour's meditation. Like I'd have like a journal and I'm just there like leaving her to just get on like doing whatever in my flat while I'm there like sat at my desk like journaling and things like that. And just so many things where I felt like I had to do X to get the Y result, when really when you actually break things down and you understand addiction properly, there's only really one thing you need to do, is you need to understand the addiction very well, like understand the addicted part of the mind and the different parts, and when I say understand addiction, I don't mean go learn about the neuroscience or dopamine, because that isn't going to help you, but instead learn about the different parts in your mind. You understand about the addicted part of the mind. You get very, very clear on one thing and one thing only. And that one thing you need to get clear on is, what do you do in the moment of compulsive desire? So when a part of your mind is screaming at you to go ahead and engage, and you have all these junky thoughts and irrational thought patterns, basically just like firing, and your mind's whizzing around, and you feel all that discomfort, and all you want is to release, and you're like, oh my God, I have to watch porn. Like, oh, I can't deal with this anymore. The urges are going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. You have all those thought patterns. It's like, well, what do you do in that moment? The answer to that is you actually think through the critical choice with a script. That's what I do. That's what my clients do. We teach clients very specifically, how do you build a script within the Beyond Compulsion Academy. I will leave a link below if you would like to build a script with us and actually start to rewire your brain. But all to say that I was completely missing the point when it came to self-improvement and addiction recovery in the past, because I convoluted what the problem even was. Like, I'd mixed everything up, and I'd mistaken my problem with addiction and this inability to be in control of my own choices with the desire to improve myself and like do all these different random things. And, you know, today I record this on the 13th of January, 2026. I haven't listened to like a single piece of advice by anyone in the self-improvement world at all. Like, I haven't clicked on a single YouTube video this year. I haven't like read one single line of self-improvement content. I haven't consumed a single post on self-improvement on any platform at all. And like, I'm fine. Like, nothing bad's gonna happen. Like, you don't need to stay on that treadmill of self-improvement, always learning more and more and more. All you really need to do is learn how to be in control of your mind, especially in those most important moments, the moments of compulsive desire, where part of your mind wants you to engage in compulsivity, whether that's porn, scrolling on social media, overeating food, playing video games, whatever it is. All you need to do is learn how to think through that choice in a rational way and actually choose to experience some temporary discomfort in that moment. You do that repeatedly, over and over and over, in the correct way, you are going to be able to rewire your brain. And that is so, so important. And I think all the information out there online just actually overcomplicates the whole thing, and it all gets really messy, and then people just go and get deeper and deeper into self-improvement, develop all these weird compulsions to like doing these different habits without actually identifying what the real problem is, which is the inability to deal with the inevitable moment of compulsive desire. That's all it really comes down to. So hopefully this response sort of answers this guy's comment and can help someone sort of take a different perspective on when it comes to self-improvement. Like, nowadays I just look back on all the different books I read, and I'm just like, wow, I wasted so many hours of time because none of it actually helped me overcome the porn addiction, because I kept relapsing. If you're continuing to relapse, you're still in an addiction. The only real way out of the addiction is to take things moment by moment and think things through the choice in the moments of compulsive desire. As I say, we do that with a script. If you'd like to learn more, you know, there'll be a link below. Go click on that and you can learn the Beyond Compulsion method and get a script and start rewiring your brain as well. So you no longer need to like keep on searching for a solution. Like, that's part of the problem, is looking for a solution. And like, that's why people get into self-improvement, is because they're still seeking a solution to that one problem. Once you solve that one problem of dealing with the addicted part of the mind, like dealing with compulsive desires, you no longer need to search for a solution. Like, that's the cool thing. In fact, I'll share a comment about that actually, because this is pretty cool. This was literally from today. So we had a client comment. Let me just find that comment. So inside the Beyond Compulsion Academy, we had someone comment, last week was my Liberation Day call. So inside the Beyond Compulsion Academy, each client has a Liberation Day call where they talk through the 5 facts, they build the scripts, they know exactly what to do. So last week was my Liberation Day call, and I've been finding so much use in my script. It feels great to have a tool that gets me back focused on what I need to do, reminds me of the bigger picture, and also helps me to truly see the reality of addiction in a rational way. Since my LDC, I've had quite a few days and situations that would normally result in me engaging, but when I use the script, everything is fine. Before coming to BCA, I went through a program that had a LDC type event, so LDC is Liberation Day call, and I relapsed and I relapsed after it. I felt lost for years until I found this program. I plan on learning by thinking because I have learned by doing way too often and have suffered the consequences every time. So that's really important there as well, is learning by thinking instead of learning by doing. Because what you can do is, in the moment of compulsive desire, is think through that choice rationally with a script. And what you get to do is actually learn about like what the consequences would be and what the benefits of stopping the behavior would be, like ahead of time. Whereas what most people do is they keep learning by doing. Like they keep relapsing, feeling terrible, going, oh, that makes me feel terrible, and then have all this motivation and willpower, get into self-improvement, try that for a few weeks or a few months, maybe do okay with a NoFap streak, then they relapse again. You know, they keep learning by doing, and every time you learn by doing, you just reinforce addictive neural pathways. You just strengthen those addictive neural pathways. Every moment, you're either going to weaken those addictive neural pathways or you're going to strengthen them. So if you want to weaken them, what you can do is think through the choice ahead of time in a rational way with a script. Every time you do that, the more reps you put in, the more you rewire your brain. So you actually can change your neural pathways without continuing to relapse over and over and over. But you've got to do that ahead of time, and you've got to get the rational mind back in control in those moments. You do that, you're not even going to really care about self-improvement anymore. It just won't be of interest to you because you would have solved the problem that you probably got into self-improvement for originally in the first place. Hopefully that makes some sense. Cheers, guys. If you'd like to learn more, there'll be a link below. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.